Hi guys, I'm Garen.
I'm JD.
And this is Investigating Comic Club, where we chronologically read, review, discuss, and rate specific crucial stories of the medium.
And at the end of every episode, we're going to be revealing next week's storyline to encourage you guys, the viewer, to read along with us and become members of Comic Club yourself.
Yes, please read along with us. And also review and discuss your own opinions in the comments, along with taking a episodic comic quality poll.
This week we're looking at Weapon X, which is by the extraordinary Barry Windsor-Smith. He wrote, drew, colored, and helped letter this comic.
Mm-hmm.
He's worked in the industry since the 70s, maybe even the late 60s. He first got prominence on Marvel's Conan the Barbarian comic.
Oh.
He had a long run of that, I think about 20 issues. And his art was special even at the time. I think that he's one of those rare artists that just gets better and better and better. His storytelling is amazing. I do think that he is a master artist.
Mm-hmm.
This comic was originally published from issue 72 to 84 of Marvel Comics Presents in 1991. Marvel Comics Presents was an anthology book, I think the right word is. There were 4 stories in every issue. Each story was just 8 pages, so it was really like serialized. Usually it was Wolverine and maybe Ghost Rider, and then the other 2 characters were more lower tier characters that they would kind of try and draw interest and stuff like that. Kind of a fun fact, 2 issues of Avengers, issue 66 and 67 that Barry Windsor-Smith drew, actually introduced the metal adamantium into the Marvel Universe. He was just an artist that issue, but adamantium was created for those 2 issues, so it's fun for him to, do this comic as well. He worked with Chris Claremont on a few very special and well-regarded issues of Uncanny X-Men, and I believe that led him to kind of get this job. In Weapon X, obviously, spoilers ahead. I hope that you guys have read the issue now.
Yeah.
It's, for the first time, Marvel peeled back the cover of what occurred in the original Weapon X program with Wolverine. So what are your initial thoughts?
It was, I liked it. It's right off the bat, it was a noir that I liked about it. Yeah. The prophecy, where my day started and ended, kind of thing. And that was a cool feel to it, especially knowing Wolverine, Logan, and his persona that I've known him as. Mm-hmm. It's somebody who's lived a long life. He's lived a life, They do even say, it's something to keep in mind as you're reading this, that Origin, which we read a couple of episodes ago and reviewed, was published a decade after this, but you can see some of these hints informed what they did in Origin, even though Origin takes place before this. Yeah.
So it's a good give and take there. They even do mention when the professor and Cornelius are talking about his healing factor, that he could potentially be immortal. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's really cool. The crime noir aspect of it that you mentioned. It's deliberately not told a definitive date of this, but I do feel like 50s-esque.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At one point, Cornelius says, I don't know what we were doing. Eventually, I originally thought we were creating a super soldier to maybe help us fight against the commies. Mm-hmm. So it feels like, that's probably a 50s.
Yeah, they do very well with keeping it, without telling you exactly what time frame it is. Mm-hmm. They don't feed you it. They don't force, or here you go. They treat you, even it's comics, but they treat you like an adult.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
I've often said that this particular story, man, Wolverine Origin, the movie, it is what it is. But getting an R-rated, this is almost a horror film. You know, this is really adult. If you took this and used these panels as storyboards, it would be so gorgeous. And that's a compliment to his storytelling. There are moments where I felt tense, like, wow.
No, and the detail to it, like all the contraptions hooked to him inside, and like that, just the panels on those were so detailed. And the colors, I do like the colors. It's that what genre is that? Like we were just talking noir, but noir is the style, but the coloring of like the pop art, like the the yellow, the yellows and the reds and the covers, that kind of like Andy Warhol-esque kind of throwing it in there. It kind of counteracted each other, but told a great story for it being this intense moments and scenes of like him taking over and him going through and having to fight all the animals and like them stepping up each step, and you going like, oh my god, this is crazy. How are they doing this to a human, even though us as the reader that he can heal himself, but still it's that. And then but it's like with the pop art though, the pop art colors, you're just like, how am I supposed to feel
fluorescent like when he's in the bath, and it is, the color choices are really odd. They shouldn't work, but they really do work. Yeah. And Marvel has done a really excellent job whenever it's reprinted of being very true, at least in the copies and the reprints that I've seen, being very true to that original color palette that Barry Windsor-Smith used. I feel like with Wolverine, we were talking about in Origin, these cycles that his life have that hint at certain things in his past. We don't know what he remembers, what he doesn't. Certain things strike chords in his memory that you don't really know why. I think it just adds to these layers of it. Yeah. I like that in this comic we are introduced to the word mutant for the first time, and they go kind of on to explain something superhuman, kind of a freak of nature. And whoever is above the professor, this mysterious figure, deliberately chose Logan without telling the professor why, but it's clear after the experiment begins that Logan was chosen because he is a mutant. Somebody
they're like, it's that higher power not telling you everything. And I felt bad for him too, because it's almost like, wait, I thought we were here for a science project almost, like to help out the human race and all, and not like almost creating a war machine. Yeah,
super soldier. They say that, and the other time we've heard super soldier in this chronological reading of ours is Captain America and the Marvels Project. Is this connected with it or not? We don't really know, but it seems like there's a good marriage there. Like one seems to lead logically to the next. Right at the beginning when you were talking about that crime noir feel, with the newspaper articles about Cornelius, he seems like the doctor of death, like he was actually helping people potentially commit suicide. And also Hines was with NASA. We learn in just a couple of documents that we can kind of read that Logan was part of some government institution, that he was an agent of some government institution. He has an alcohol abuse problem and some shooting range incident led to his dismissal. And he's just drinking at this prophecy thing, and the apocalypse is on its way. Having you read Origin before this is the first character now that has come back with our chronological readings of this. How do you feel about that? How did you think of Origin at all during this?
Yeah. It's funny how, even like you said, how even though it was written after the fact, the mannerisms on page of Origin comes through both ways, like towards like, you kind of picture that like, oh, that's why he did that. Well, I would too if I lost the love of my life. I felt, because of reading Origin, I felt like a fly on the wall that knows more than the people.
Than the characters
within the story, Towards like, oh, I wouldn't do that. It's like, oh, we're going to try now. We're going to try wolves. We're going to try a bear, like the ultimate test, kind of thing. It's like, and even then, for some of those, like even with the bear, right, the grizzly, even with that one, I was still worried for him. Everybody's got their limits, like.
Yeah, I think it's fun. When this comic came out, us as readers knew Logan through his hundreds or thousands of appearances. the average, like, if somebody was to read this for the first time, Logan is a blank slate. Like, he's a non-character almost.
Yeah.
But I think with Origin before this, you care for him.
Mm-hmm.
You root for him. And it does feel like almost a personal attack with what he's going through. And with Logan, who's the monster, who's the man is essentially, the big epic question of this read.
Yeah.
Logan is considered a beast, a mutant. He's primal. When the wolves attack him, maybe he feels more at home. That's why he just lets them attack until they really start to almost kill him, and then he kills them back.
Yeah. I saw almost a sense of wanting to die in that moment, actually. Like, I've been around for so long. I hope these guys kill me. Like, because I'm just a test subject at this point. I felt bad for him in that moment. And then when he went off, I was like, okay, he's got more fight in him left, It was a cool turn of events for how the whole story goes.
How it plays out. Right at the beginning of this, before the claws come out, Logan is having nightmares. Of, what does it say? Nightmares of pain and bones and spikes, dagger hands. So he's having these nightmares when he's drinking his life away. And that kind of, if you're reading it close enough, that confirms that he had these before. And of course that goes, if we're just thinking of it as Origin. And that goes towards, he doesn't remember everything from those events with Rose, but something is nagging. Something is haunting him from that time. And I think that works really lovely. One of the things that is so effective, all of the little dialogue boxes, like when Logan is speaking and thinking, it's like the nice dialogue boxes. But when all of the people, Hines and their workers, when they are talking in the background, the placement of those are so precisely done. Because he is part of the letter. That's part of his art. It's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I feel so bad how he's not in control, but he's in control. They got what's coming to them. He's free. And then you go and do the cliffhanger of it's just like, what is going on? Like,
I think that loop that happens where it's revealed, he goes through and kills everybody, and then it's revealed that was another exercise. It's clever and it's dramatic and it works as you're reading it, but it's almost, I feel like, a little too clever for its own good. It doesn't really hold up to further reflection. Don't think about it too much. Just enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about it too much, it kind of falls apart. Because, wait, so the professor in this exercise showed that he was killing Hines and that he didn't care about Dr. Cornelius and betrayed him, and wait a second, what? But then you think about maybe it's the overseer, the mysterious guy that put all that stuff in there. Again, it's clever, it works, it's dramatic, maybe a little too clever for its own good. That
sequence of...
One of the people that I think the only, not Cornelius, Professor, or Hines, I think the only other person within the project that's named is somebody named Cole. And he's the first person when the claws come out, I believe, who goes in. The professor, tells him to kind of go in, and then Wolverine kills him. And they're like, why did he even go in there? And the professor doesn't own up to the fact that he sent him in there. Remember that name, Cole.
Were they able to look into his dreams, into his visions?
Yeah, I thought that part, again, don't think about it too much.
I couldn't tell if they were able to see into his visions because
they did.
He had a picture of the blood and the glasses, and that was the same picture later on of the blood and the glasses. And I was like, this is just all crazy.
Right. I think that is deliberate in the way of putting you as a reader within Logan's mind space. What was reality? What did happen? Did this happen? Or was that a fantasy? I thought that sequence with the wolves, I think I said the wolf sequence in Origin was my favorite sequence of that. And this echoes of that. But when they leave Logan out in the winter on it. Like, that's just deliberately cruel.
Yeah.
You know, you're starting to feel like that's when you start to really hate these people. There's a specific panel there that they close in on the kind of dead skull of the wolf. It's like a long, and it's just up, kind of howling, but it's dead. That is such a beautiful, beautiful image. Again, this artist, he's one of them that inspires me and intimidates me as a storyteller. He's just on a different level. Like, he's really, really special. One of the things that I like right there in that sequence, up until that point, they're talking about it, Experiment X. After he kills those wolves, you know, like, they jump on him. They're like, this is a disaster. He's dying.
Yeah.
And then he fights back. Right after that sequence is when the professor regards him as Weapon X. That's the, like, transition moment. So we've got the betrayal of the professor by whoever is the overseer. It's like dead wood, he says, cleaning everything up after it. Who's this mysterious person? Why would they go to the trouble of turning Logan into this weapon, putting it together where they have control of him, wiping all the people that made that possible out, and then having this weapon on the loose? Is that a ticking time bomb? Does this guy still have maybe control over Logan?
Yeah.
And until that comes into play, Logan is just making his way. Is that something that, like, in the midst of an X-Men story, like when is that time bomb going to go off?
Yeah.
I think that's, again, the Marvel Universe, we're building this story up.
That's why I said, this one, it kind of goes into my whole overview of the whole issue is,
please.
It was well told for, like we were talking about, the panels, and I could follow that story. There were some portions that were a little confusing towards, like, there was too many questions that needed to be answered. Does he remember these thoughts? Is he able to? Does he really kill them? Does he realize, like, he's not in control? Is he in control? You know, there's too many questions that added up to where
it was too vague at certain moments.
There was moments where it was too vague to where I want some kind of button on it.
I understand that very, very well. For me, I like the questions there. I like the vagueness of it, because ultimately I think this story is about what makes a man and what makes a monster. And we get to a point where I am Logan, I am a man, because he chooses it.
It as a whole, everything I liked about it, the coloring, the art, I was in the story. I felt the story. Frustrated me. So with that, I give this one as well a B.
Okay, cool. This one, like I said, as a storyteller, as an artist, seeing what Windsor-Smith, I'm just kind of in awe of him, as, like, the little details in it, the beauty of his work, the way that he panel-to-panel storytells, the movement. I do really think that this is almost a masterpiece. I have to give it an A-, though, because I do think it is a little slightly too clever for its own good. But I do really enjoy the piece. As we're reading along our chronological, the fan in me is starting to get excited with this one. I just want myself, selfishly, to reread the stories. It's been years since I visited this. There were whole sequences that I completely forgot, and I forgot this, and I was just really in it, and I loved it. It was really exciting. I hope that there's enough interest in Comic Club with you guys that we will do further seasons, because unfortunately, this season and what's planned, this is our last appearance of Logan. So we don't get more of the story.
See, I'm living this through you guys. I don't know these answers.
So that's it for this week. That's our two opinions. Mr. Gary.
Yeah, we want to know your opinion. So click on the Comic Quality poll up here and let us know what you rate it. Give it A, B, C, D, F. And also tell us in the comments why you gave it that. Let's start a conversation.
Absolutely. Please do. This is a little unusual. Garen and I have decided moving forward, we're going to try and keep this PG, maybe PG-13. We hope that there's some mums or dads out there and they are going to read along with their children. Let's bring some new fans into the Marvel Universe.
Older,
Let's have some
younger,
discoverers.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to keep these stories that we read in that age range. That being said, there are a couple books that I would like to just kind of give a shout out to. If we weren't doing that, Punisher Born would be the next title. It is a very hard R-rated story. Garth Ennis, who is the creator of Preacher, and Derek Robertson, who is, I'm a big fan of his work from way back in the day, New Warriors. And Tom Palmer actually inks it, who needs a shout out because Tom Palmer inked over 100 issues of the Avengers. He's working with Marvel for decades. Yeah, he's a great guy. So, if you care to, Punisher Born. It's a good story. But the next story proper that we are going to do on Comic Club is Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, by Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. And you talk about works of art. This one, it's certainly a favorite of mine. And if you at all are a fan of the Netflix Marvel series, like Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, The Defenders, if you enjoyed that and you haven't read Frank Miller's actual Daredevil run, this is going to be a big, big treat for you. So I hope that you guys will read it this week. Join us next time on Comic Club.
To be continued. Getting Comic Club, where we chronologically read, review, discuss, and rate specific crucial stories of the medium.
Indeed. I'm just baffled by your genius. You're so good. Oh, wow. That's funny. In all the editing, I never noticed it. Remember, we had the candle on that first.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I guess we don't need it.